Hello and welcome. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on project management. I know, it can sound like this super complex world, all charts and jargon, right? But stick with me. By the end of this, you won't just get it, you'll start seeing it everywhere.
I mean, really think about that for a second. A brand new vaccine, or a skyscraper that touches the clouds, or even the phone you might be holding right now. These things don't just happen by accident. They're massive, incredibly coordinated efforts. So how in the world do we pull this stuff off without it all just descending into total chaos?
Well, the answer, the secret ingredient, if you will, is actually surprisingly simple. It all boils down to one core idea, a single, temporary effort that's designed to create something totally new. And that, my friends, is a project. Now, there are two words here you absolutely have to remember: temporary and unique. This isn't your day-to-day ongoing work, like a factory churning out the same thing over and over. Nope. A project has a definite start and a definite end. And its goal is to create something that has never existed before. That's our fundamental building block. Okay, so we've got our project, our single quest. But where does that one quest fit into the grand scheme of things? Well, in part one, we're going to zoom out, way out. We're going to look at the entire kingdom.
Look, one project on its own is powerful. But you know what's even more powerful? Grouping a bunch of related projects together. Think about that vaccine again. You've got a research project, a clinical trials project, a supply chain project. When you manage them all together under one umbrella, say a vaccine program, you start to see benefits and efficiencies you'd just never get if they were all running off on their own. That's a program.
And let's zoom out one last time. A big company might have a bunch of different programs running at once. That vaccine program, maybe a new cancer drug program, a gene therapy program. You take all of those, all the big efforts, and you get the company's portfolio. This is the highest level, where everything gets aligned with the big picture strategy. Project to program to portfolio. See how it all connects? All right, we get the scale. Now, how do we actually do a project? Well, part two is all about crafting that master plan. You wouldn't just jump in the car for a cross-country trip without a map, right? Of course not. And you definitely don't start a multi-million-dollar project without one either.
Every single project, and I don't care if you're building a new factory or just planning a wedding, follows this same basic path. We call it the project lifecycle. You kick it off, you plan it all out, you do the actual work, you keep a close eye on everything, and then you wrap it up. Initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and closure. This is our roadmap for the journey.
So, the very first step in planning, you have got to define your scope. This is so crucial. It's where you draw a big, thick line in the sand and say, okay, this is what we are doing, and this is what we are not doing. A clear scope is your best defense against something we call scope creep. That's when a project just keeps growing and growing until it's a completely different beast. Okay, so you've got this massive scope. How do you even begin? Well, you know that old question, how do you eat an elephant? The answer is one bite at a time. And that is exactly what a work breakdown structure, or WBS, is all about. You take a huge goal and you just break it down and down and down into smaller and smaller pieces until you have a list of manageable tasks. Suddenly, it doesn't seem so impossible. Now, once you have all your tasks laid out, you'll notice some of them have to happen in a certain order. You can't put the roof on before the walls are up, right? The critical path is the longest chain of these connected, dependent tasks. You can think of it like the project's spine. Any delay to any task on this path, and I mean any delay, will push back your final finish date. This is the path you have to protect.
And finally, as you're planning, you have to identify your stakeholders. And listen, this isn't just your immediate team or your boss. It is anyone who has a stake in the outcome. Could be regulatory agencies, could be your suppliers, could be the finance department, and of course, it's your customer. Knowing who they are and keeping them in the loop is absolutely key.
So, the map is made, the plan is set. Now, for the adventure. This is part 3, the execution phase. It's where the beautifully crafted plan meets the messy, unpredictable real world. And trust me, the real world always has a few surprises up its sleeve.
And one of the first surprises usually shows up as either a risk or an issue. Now, people mix these up all the time, so let's get this straight. A risk is a storm you see on the horizon. It's an uncertainty that could happen. An issue? Well, that's the storm hitting your boat right now. It's a problem that has happened. You plan for risks, you solve issues. Big difference.
So, in the middle of this adventure, how do you know if you're on track?
You need some gauges on your dashboard, right? The first one is your Cost Performance Index, or CPI. It answers a really simple question. Are we getting the value we expected for the money we've spent? If your CPI is greater than 1, congratulations, you're under budget. If it's less than 1, you're spending more than you planned to get the work done. Our second gauge is the Schedule Performance Index, or SPI. It's the exact same idea, but this time it's for your timeline. It answers the question, are we ahead of schedule or are we behind? An SPI over 1 means you're ahead of the game. Less than 1, and you're falling behind. You put CPI and SPI together, and you've got this powerful at-a-glance health check for your project. Okay, let's make this real. Look at these numbers. We planned to get $100,000 worth of work done by now, but we actually got $110,000 worth of work done. So our SPI is 1.1. We're ahead of schedule. Awesome, right? But hold on. To get that work done, it cost us $120,000. That gives us a CPI of about 0.9. So what's the story here? We're moving fast, which is great, but it's costing us more than it should.
And beyond just time and money, there's always quality. Here, we've got two sides of the same very important coin, quality assurance and quality control. Think of it this way. QA is proactive. It's all about the processes you set up to prevent defects from ever happening in the first place. QC is reactive. It's about inspecting the final product to find any defects that might have slipped through. You absolutely need both.
Okay, the hard work is done. The product is built. Time to pack up and go home, right? Not so fast. Part 4 is all about reaching the destination and actually crossing that finish line the right way, because a strong finish is every bit as important as a strong start.
The first step is the handover. And this is not just dropping a report on someone's desk and running away. It's a formal process where the temporary project team officially hands over the keys, so to speak, to the operations team, the people who are going to run and maintain this new thing for the long haul. A clean handover is what makes sure the project's benefits actually stick.
And this might be the most valuable part of closing out any project, capturing the lessons learned. What went great? What was a complete disaster? By actually writing this stuff down, you make sure the whole organization gets smarter. You stop making the same mistakes over and over, and you start repeating your successes. It's how real experience turns into wisdom. Now, everything we've talked about so far follows a very structured plan your work and work your plan approach. But what if you're working on something where you don't even know what the final destination looks like developing a brand new piece of software? Well, for that, there's a different path you can take. It's the Agile alternative.
You see, Agile is more of a mindset than a single method. You'll hear about frameworks like Scrum, which organizes all the work into these short, focused cycles we call sprints. Or you might see Kanban, which is a super visual way to manage the flow of work. The big idea here is to ditch the giant upfront plan and instead take small, iterative steps, get constant feedback, and adapt as you go.
So there you have it. We've gone from the 30,000-foot view of portfolios all the way down to the nitty-gritty of daily tasks. And we even took a peek at the flexible world of Agile. You now have the language and the core concepts to navigate project management. So I'll just leave you with this one question. Now that you know all this, what's the one thing you're going to do differently on your very next project? Thanks for tuning in.